Roller Coaster at Lagoon is one of the oldest continuously operating roller coasters in the world. This ride opened over 100 years ago, but this coaster has changed quite a bit over the years. These changes have impacted most aspects of the ride, including the appearance, setup, tracking, and trains. But have all these changes been positive? Find out in this review of Roller Coaster. This was Lagoon's second roller coaster ever, opening back in 1921. This is the world's 7th oldest roller coaster that's still operating, and the 3rd oldest with upstop wheels. The coaster was designed by John A. Miller, and it had one of the most daring layouts for its time, as the underside wheels allowed for the coaster to safely navigate steeper drops than its predecessors. While this ride has always officially been known as Roller Coaster, it has gone by a few other names during its lifetime. A 1923 John Miller catalog called the ride Pippin Dips. Postcards from the 1930s called the ride the Giant Roller Coaster. And for many years, locals referred to the ride as the White Roller Coaster, but that name is now outdated. Until 2004, the ride featured white track and supports. Older wood coasters were often painted, typically white, to help prevent the wood from absorbing moisture and rotting. Newer wood coasters instead pressure treat the wood, allowing it to maintain its natural brown appearance. As Lagoon has retracked the coaster over the past 2 decades, they've used brown wood. For years, this ride was a mishmash of white and brown supports, but now it has one consistent color, brown. This ride's trains have also been updated a few times. The ride was damaged by a fire in 1953, and around that time, the original trains were replaced by Century Flyers from National Amusement Device. A few decades later, the trains were replaced by 3-bench ones from PTC. These trains originally had buzz bars, but an incident in 1989 changed this ride's restraints and operational policies. A girl riding alone presumably stood up, causing her to fall off the ride to her death. Roller Coaster reopened with individual ratcheting lap bars, and the ride implemented a policy that single riders are not allowed to ride in the very front or back rows. Many of Lagoon's roller coasters had this policy over the past 3 decades, but it has been relaxed in all rides outside of Roller Coaster as of 2022. The trains were updated yet again in 2018. 2 Millennium Flyer trains from Great Coasters International were added. The capacity per train did not change, as they still hold 24 guests. These trains were just comprised of 12 individual cars instead of 4 3-bench cars. These are the only trains I've ever experienced on Roller Coaster. I imagine the original buzz bars made the experience even better, but I understand why those freeing restraints will never come back given the history with this ride. 2018 also marked the year the ride's station was reconfigured. The load and unload sides were swapped. This gave the coaster some more queue space, although the physical line can still only hold about 15 to 20 minutes worth of people. This is common practice with many of Lagoon's coasters, as the park likes when lines bleed onto the midway because they believe it adds to the atmosphere of the park. Roller Coaster is a fantastic station. From the outside, it has a retro design with a giant sign that lights up beautifully at night, and the roof has these gorgeous rainbow lights. Then the load platform is a giant mural with historical photos and information about the ride. Lagoon is clearly proud of this coaster. However, very little of this ride's double out and back layout is visible from within the park boundaries. That's because the ride goes out into the parking lot. It makes for a cool arrival experience because you park on all sides of the coaster and you're able to walk underneath it. And I love how many shots of this ride have the mountains in the background. It is stunning to see. Lines are usually manageable for this coaster. I've only visited the park on busy Halloween weekends, yet the line typically is around the 10 to 15 minute mark. The park has run 2 trains in both my visits with lightning fast dispatches. Stacking is exceedingly rare. In fact, the crew usually gets the trains out so quickly that they often block check on the lift hill. And on some rides, they even have to be stopped until the prior train clears the final brake run. The fast dispatches are helped by 2 factors. 1. No bags or loose articles can be stored on the ride platform. Thankfully, this ride has complimentary lockers before you enter the main queue. This is a policy Lagoon has on several of their roller coasters. It's nice this park makes these free, unlike most parks. 2. The restraints consist of just a T-bar. There are no additional restraints or seatbelts. And in general, I like these restraints. The bars will want to continuously lower like those on Millennium Flyers as always, so once checked, I would advise holding onto the bar unless you want the ride to staple you. I think it's worth trying both the front and back on this coaster. Each seat has some elements that ride better in those rows. You are allowed to choose your row on this ride, unlike some of the other coasters at Lagoon. Once you hear the siren, you're dispatched. You round a slow corner by the queue line, and then you head up the 62-foot or 19-meter tall lift hill. You get a nice view of Lagoon's other coasters to the side or the parking lot straight ahead. Now the first drop is pretty weak. It doesn't offer any airtime even in the very back. Then the valley has a very noticeable shimmy. Thankfully, the ride gets better fast. You then crest a camelback. Those up front get a decent pop of airtime in the ascent. Then those in back get a great burst of airtime in the descent because it feels considerably steeper than the first drop. It feels like the floor drops out from beneath you. You then head into the first turnaround. Those up front weakly lift out of their seat, rising up into the element. Then you crawl around the turn. But that's fine because you get a neat visual of the park skyline and mountains in the distance. The drop off this turnaround is another good one in the back, as it offers some decent floater airtime. Next is another camelback. It's not quite as good as the first one, but those on the ends of the train will still get some weak floater airtime. Just watch out for the valley. It'll shake the train a bit, and it'll try its darndest to lower your lap bar a notch. You then shoot into the second turnaround. The entry levels off pretty abruptly, so those up front get an ejector pop going into it. The unbanked turn offers a nice head chopper with the lift supports and a pinch of laterals. Then the drop off the element gives weak to okay airtime in the back, depending if the ride is warmed up or not. The next stretch is the weakest one on the ride. You have a camelback and a little speed hill. Neither offer any airtime regardless of where you're seated. The camelback at least has some sweet head choppers at the apex to compensate at least. These two hills are followed by a third and final turnaround. Those up front get some very abrupt ejector airtime going into it. It is the single strongest airtime moment on the ride. The turn is enveloped in much of the ride structure, and then it leads into a small double down. The first dip doesn't do too much, but the second one gives a weak pop if you're in the back. You then crest another hill that has yet another double down on the other side. Like before, only the second dip delivers. This one gives a faint bit of airtime up front, and an okay burst in the back. You then rise into the final brake run, and you decelerate pretty darn quickly. It doesn't feel like the back car will fully make it onto the brakes before you stop. But you do, and then you return to the station, ending the 2,500 foot or 762 meter long coaster. For a ride as old as it is, roller coaster rides smoother than you'd expect. The ride sounds pretty rough from the sounds the train make, but it actually tracks pretty well. Some of the valleys I specifically noted are a bit bumpy, but it's overall fairly smooth for a wood coaster. That is probably helped by the ride's modest speed. That ties into my next point though. This ride does not have the strongest pacing. You noticeably slow down atop several turns and hills. I can look past a lack of speed if all the hills still deliver, but there are a few in this ride that don't quite offer the airtime I expected. So what would I rate Roller Coaster? I would give this Woody a 6 out of 10. It's a decent coaster, and that's even more impressive when you consider its age. Both the front and back rows have a few elements that have some really nice airtime. While the other hills aren't of the same caliber, the ride is still enjoyable and quite re-rideable because of how well it's taken care of. I always make sure to ride this a few times while I'm at Lagoon. So those are my thoughts on Lagoon's roller coaster. What are your thoughts on this ride? Let me know if this ride was better or worse with the old trains if you experienced both. If you enjoyed this review, I'd appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you considered subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.